thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of the Inspired Podcast. And today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. Today's guest, Kaylee Frederick, is the youngest finisher of the Badwater 135 marathon, ultra marathon through Death Valley. That's something we do here today. She has a very, very inspiring story from starting running at a very young age. Well, you're still young now, but an even younger age when she started running, all the way through to Badwater 135. But we'll also be talking about the future as well and what's yet to come. We'll be talking about mindset. We'll be talking about faith. We'll be talking about some great topics today. So, Kaylee, thank you for coming on the show and thank you for making time for this. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. No worries at all. We've got a lot to talk about, as I say, past, present, and future. Now, I am going to go back in time because I think it's super cool how you started off running. To be honest, I was reading about this earlier today in preparation. Can you share with us a little bit about how old you were when it started and where you first got interested in running for us, please?
Yeah, so I started running when I was 7 years old. I would just run 5Ks and 10Ks, and I actually would get really competitive with it. I started like winning some local races as like a 10-year-old. Like I was winning first overall female in some of them. And so I was satisfied with my life. And when I turned 13, one of my elementary school teachers invited me to run a half marathon. And I was like, what is wrong with you? You know, only the elite runners can do that. I can't do that. But she just said, you know, let's run it together. If we're running slow, if we need to walk, we'll walk. You know, we'll just do it. So I agreed. And then I was like, wow, I think I can do more. So when I turned 14, I found a marathon I could do, which was pretty difficult because most marathons and ultras have age limits of 18. But my friend helped me find one. And then she said, you know, an ultra marathon is only like 5 more miles if you run a 50K. I was like, okay, that sounds good. And then we all know how it goes from there, you know, just kept building.
Yeah, I mean the rest is history, but I think it's an amazing start to the sport. Now, to touch on that for just a moment as well, in terms of your time, fitting this in around studying and around everything else that you've got going on, at that age, that would be very relevant. But also as you got a little bit older with, work and high school and other things coming into it, how do you manage to fit everything in, basically?
Just a lot of time management and hard work ethic because I definitely take school super, super seriously. So I was always focused on my studies, but I always had to make time to train. And I also, like, I played 4 sports. So I had to fit in 4 sports and ultra running and CrossFit and work and school. So it was never easy. It was a lot of very early mornings and a lot of very late nights.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is paying off now with this recent achievement with Badwater, but a lot more to come as well. So touching on that with the build up to taking part in such a major race as Badwater, such a grueling race. I follow how you've been building it up, a step at a time. But where was the initial inspiration to take that, ultras in 100-mile ultra? You're saying about like 50K and stuff. Where did you first get the idea to run Badwater, basically?
My friend Keith Straw, who is the tutu man of Badwater. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures or anything. He wears the pink tutu. I actually met him at my first marathon, and then we have just been friends ever since. And at the time, he was an 8-time finisher, and he told me about it, and he told me I could. He thought I could be the youngest person to ever do it. I was like, well, if he believes in me and he's done it 8 times, then I guess I should believe in myself. And so I got super interested in it. I started following it, following runners who have done it and everything. And then it was like, now's my chance. So I just went for it.
Absolutely incredible. Now we'll delve headlong into everything about Badwater now in just a moment. Before we do, when you look back at like marathons and some of the, some of the half marathons and the shorter races you did, maybe some of the shorter ultras as well. Do you know how many other races you've taken part in altogether, or have you sort of lost track of it by now?
I don't know out of all my races, but out of ultra marathons, I believe I've done 23, I believe. But
Absolutely incredible. And you're still 18, right? You're 18 years old?
yep, still 18.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely amazing. That really does show that anything's possible with the hard work, the belief, the faith, We'll get into all of that shortly. But before we do, let's talk about it with Badwater itself. Now, obviously, when the race was coming up, what were your expectations? Because you said about just now about looking at other runners who'd done the race and sort of listening to things about it, or generally immersing yourself into the race. So when it was sort of getting close, how were you feeling on the run up to it?
I was really, really nervous because I knew, like, I've never DNF'd a race, and I knew out of all the races I've done, this could not be my first DNF because there was so much, like, pressure on me to finish, and there were so many people watching. Like, everyone in my hometown was watching, and, like, I mean, Chris Kosman and the board of directors who obviously took a risk by letting an 18-year-old girl into the race, they were kind of had to show them that they made the right decision by letting me in. So I just knew I couldn't DNF this race. And so I had that kind of on me. But I knew I did the training, and I knew I just had to go in and do the best that I possibly could and give it every single effort I could to get to that finish line. And I mean, all my training paid off, and I was able to. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing to get just a little bit behind the scenes and find out about what people didn't see in a way. I mean, people saw your race, but the preparation. Now, I also read when preparing for this interview about the sauna work you were doing and some stuff about adapting to the heat. Can you share with us a little bit about how that went as well, please?
So yeah, actually, when I found out I got into the race, it was on February 4th. So I had like 5 months to train and get ready for the heat and everything. So I did a lot of sauna training. I would just kind of chill out in the sauna for like an hour or so. I read both of David Goggins' books to pass the time while I was in the sauna. Stay hard. And I would also just use a lot of layers. Like I would layer up. I had a sauna suit I would use, and I would run like that. I did some CrossFit workouts like that, and I just did everything I could to hopefully help me get ready to be out there.
Absolutely amazing. So when it comes to actually being out there, I mean, I know you've been doing interviews about this lately, but walking us through the race in terms of your experience, because when I was reading up on this, I remember reading what you were saying to yourself in the last few miles and everything and all this type of thing. But basically, with this side of it, can you just describe it to us? Because there's so many different aspects in terms of the elevation, the heat and everything like that. But in terms of how it felt at different points in the race, or the main things that have stayed with you from it, basically.
Yeah, so it was definitely in the beginning. It was super cool because there's three waves: 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And I was in the first wave. So I pretty much the first like 3 or 4 hours just had cars driving past me in both directions. So, and it was at night. So it was just kind of nice to always know there were people there and you were never really by yourself. I actually did the first over 50 miles with my friend Keith Straw, who got his ninth finish this year. And yeah, so the first like 50 or so miles, I was tired from a night start, but it was just really cool to see everyone, people I'd been talking to for months, that I finally got to meet and everything. And then the middle miles definitely got difficult at Panamint Springs, which is like 72 miles. That was rough in there. That was honestly worse than actually the other part of Death Valley, a Badwater Basin. It was a lot hotter down there. But then at the end, the last 13 miles going up Whitney Portal is where a lot of people really struggle, but I honestly felt so great. Like physically, I hurt pretty bad, but I was just mentally so in it and so ready to just get to the finish that it was great. It was just surreal.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an incredible achievement, but it's an incredible experience. Now, not to ask a silly question here, but I have to ask, in terms of the heat over there, how hot does it get during the race for you?
I actually didn't even look at the temperature because, it didn't matter if it was 130 or 60 degrees, I still had to run and finish the race. But after, I believe my crew told me it was like 115, 116, around there at its hottest. So there have definitely been hotter years though. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one other thing, obviously, about Badwater, which people do bring up when I've interviewed other finishers and everything like that, is obviously, as you said, the elevation or the amount that you climb and everything is pretty extensive. Obviously, you will have trained for that, but can you just share with us a little bit about how that felt? Because that's something as well that makes that race so tough, as well as the heat, obviously.
yeah, so over the whole race, it's 14,000 feet of elevation. So you climb up three mountain ranges. And the first one was, I believe, like a 17-mile climb. And it was long. It was very long. It was in the heat of the day. And then the second climb was shorter, but it's probably about 8 to 10 miles up Father Crowley. I actually went out there in April to actually train on the course, and I did that climb. So I was expecting it to be kind of bad because I knew the end was steep, but it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be after doing the 17-mile climb. So it actually wasn't too bad. And then the third climb is the 13 miles actually to the finish, which I was just cruising because I was done. I was just moving.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And obviously, well, one other thing to ask you about the race itself, actually, the last thing, and then we'll go into post-race and we'll go into the future. But I read somewhere that you were praying, you were basically talking with God on the certain points in the race as well. Was that something that kept you going through the painful times or the more difficult points in the race?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do that for every race I do. I just always pray at different points before the race, after the race, during the race, just whenever I feel like I need to, because I just think if I'm supposed to finish this race, I will finish this race. I just leave everything kind of up to God because I know that, everything happens for a reason. And I always hope for the best for me and all the other runners. But yeah, it's just kind of how I get through. I was given this what I like to think is a great talent for what I do, especially at such a young age that people normally don't find till they're older. So I just try and use it to inspire others, and hopefully other people can see what I do and go after their dreams, and hopefully also rely on God the way that I do throughout everything.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it is amazing the age that you're doing this as well. It's an amazing achievement at any time, but given how many years you've been doing this, I've interviewed a lot of people who are like 30 plus, when they found, say, ultra running and things like that. So it is incredible. Now, you mentioned earlier about your hometown and everybody watching and everyone being involved in this. So post Badwater, obviously you've been getting a lot of recognition. You've been doing different interviews, and it's sort of your breakthrough race in that way. Even though you've been doing this a long time, so what was the reaction like from your friends, your family, especially your close people when you did actually finish, and when you came back home and everything like that?
It was crazy. After the race, it probably took me like 6 hours to scroll through social media and just go through and like look at everyone because everyone had been following me the whole race. So I like went through everything and made sure I thanked everyone. And I only have a couple close friends, but they were just really, really proud of me, which was super cool to see just like how supportive they were and how supportive everyone was. When I actually got home from the airport, we like pulled into my house. My house was all decorated, saying like congratulations, and there were balloons, and like everyone had come. And I'm in a club called Johnstown Running Club, and it was like we're so proud of you, and everyone came and signed the poster. So it was really really cool to see how much everyone supported and followed me the whole race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone was behind you, and that must have given you a boost of strength as well. And when it comes to being, to being recognized like this, I mean, obviously I'm over here in the UK, and I've heard about you, and people all over the world will be hearing about what you've done. So there's basically a fame, that's come with this now. Um, how do you feel about that side of things? I mean, in terms of like the pros, the cons, or anything you'd like to share about being a recognized athlete around the world now.
It's honestly crazy. I still can't really grasp it. Like when I ran across the finish line, people were just trying to take pictures with me and stuff, and they were like, "You just set a world record." And I just looked at them and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it's still kind of like the same. It's crazy for me to grasp that people are actually like seeing who I am now, because I'm just out here to run because that's just what I do. I'm not like seeking anything, but it's super cool that I can hopefully inspire more people now, because that's always been a dream of mine. And now that I'm actually getting my name and story out there more, I really hope that I can continue to do that. And I mean, it would be a dream to one day be like a professional runner, like Courtney Dauwalter. Maybe one day.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think you've got every chance of doing that, to be honest, because I mean, look at everything you've already achieved so far, and I mean, you've got years ahead of you to do more. So I think being a professional runner is definitely well, it's definitely going to happen if you want it to happen. Now, we'll come to the future in just a minute. Before we do, you've said a couple of times about inspiring people and encouraging people to chase their dreams. I love that because it's a big part of the reason why I do this podcast in the first place, to be honest. So, anyone listening to this who wants to achieve a big dream or a big goal, if it's in running or if it's in another life area, what would be a couple of pieces of advice that you would give to those people to help them on their journey?
Just go for it. It doesn't matter if you're too young, too old, you don't have this, you don't have that. It doesn't really matter. People are going to talk anyway, so you do you. Just go after your goals. It doesn't matter if people tell you you can't or they tell you to do it a certain way. I'd say I always live by two mottos: dream the impossible and don't stop until it's possible, and you're never promised tomorrow, so do it today. So I just think dream as big as you possibly can and then go do it. That's how I've always done it. And do it as soon as you can, because you never know if today could be your last day. So just go after your dreams no matter what.
Absolutely. Some great advice for people there. And it's great advice because that applies to running, but it can apply to anything else people are doing as well. Now, obviously, looking to the future, you said about your dream of being a professional runner. So we've touched on this. In the build up to that, as you go forward with things, what races are you looking at next? What's sort of inspiring you, lighting the fire inside of you from this point forward, basically?
Yeah, so I just ran Eastern States 2 weeks ago, which was one of the most challenging 100 milers I've ever done. I will say that. And I actually have, I believe, I'm signed up for 6 or 7 more races for the rest of 2023. And I want to add a couple more because I actually want to hit 20 ultra marathons in 2023. I think that would be a really cool number to hit for one year. And then moving forward to other years, I would love to run Badwater again. I'm definitely going to apply, and I really hope I get in. I'm already signed up for Cape Fear and Salton Sea, so it would be cool if I could Ultra Cup again. Other dream races: the Triple Crown of 200s, Coconona 250, Western States 100, UTMB, Barkley Marathons. I have so much I want to do. So much.
Absolutely. Well, the future is very, very bright, and I can see, Kaylee, I can see a part two coming into this of like, maybe next year or something. We'll have to catch up again and update everybody on what you've been doing. But there's some amazing races out there for you. Now, shortly we'll wrap this up, but I'd like to give a mention to people who've helped athletes along the way. So I'd like to do the same with yourself, the people who've helped you along the journey. You did touch on a couple of people, but who would you like to thank who's contributed to your journey so far in one way or another? It doesn't matter what form it takes, you know?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I have so many people. Well, we'll just do a big old general. My whole community, my whole Johnstown Running Club community has really supported me since I was 7 years old and been there for me. And there's a few specific people who have really helped me. Peter Klein, I met him during my first 100-mile race, and he's coached me through so much. He's been such a great role model. He's such a great runner, such a great person. Kristen Angle, Kristen Cook now, she got married. Because she's the one who actually introduced me to ultra running and ultra marathoning. I want to be here if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't have found it at such a young age. Keith Straw, he's been there for me since my first marathon, and he's one of the greatest supporters. And I mean, he told me about Badwater in the first place. He really believes I can do pretty much anything. He's amazing. And my ma, because my ma has supported me, even though people have talked bad about us for her for letting me run when I was younger. But she knew I was ready, and she has crewed for me and pays for me for so many races, and I'm so thankful for her and just everyone who's supported me and helped me in any way. Thank y'all.
Absolutely, yeah. Well done, because I knew it would be a long list. It's a big question for you, but well done for narrowing that down. And pretty much the last thing to touch on here is obviously you mentioned earlier about social media and the amount of hours it took you to sort of thank everybody. So anybody who's listening to this who wants to reach out to you to support you or ask questions about running or whatever reason they have, where can they find you? Just give yourself a little shout out on here as well, please.
I use Facebook. It's just my name, Kaylee Frederick, but I'm more active on Instagram. It's my handle is frederick.kaylee. So pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty easy, but it's still good because most people listening to this they'll be they will have heard a bit about your story, but anyone who's hearing this for the first time or anybody who wants to reach out, they can. Well, thank you for your time, Kaylee. I mean, I know with this we scratched the surface only a little bit, on two counts. One, because you're just getting started, you're just getting warmed up, and as well as that, obviously the best is yet to come. So yeah, I definitely think we'll talk again down the road. But for now, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being an open book. And what can I say? I mean, 18, you got the world at your feet now in terms of ultra running and life in general. So I definitely look forward to following your progress from here, to be honest.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I would definitely love to talk to you next year sometime. We can make it a yearly thing, whatever you want to do. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.